Alright guys, I'm actually situated in my closet right now. I'm trying to find a good spot to do these videos. I only have one baby that sleeps now, and he takes one nap a day. And I really don't have any other time to film these. By the end of the day, I'm exhausted, and I get up super early with the youngest one. So, hopefully this works out. So, welcome to my closet. I've got my coffee here that I haven't had yet today. And I'm ready to talk about Oak Meadow 2nd grade. And if you've looked at my other videos, you know that we use a older version of Oak Meadow. And my book is actually 2005, which is a few editions away. I think in 2010 they switched it to color, maybe, or 2014 they switched to color, and then the big change was in 2015. So while most things are the same, not everything is. If you've heard it from all the groups, from all the videos, the older you get, the gentler it is in the first 4 years. It's my dog trying to get in here. And the older you get, the more Waldorf inspired it is. So, if you have a newer version, your lessons will look a little bit different. If you have an older version, then it'll look just the same. But all the supplemental reading is the same. The themes are the same. They've just vamped it up quite a bit academically as the years have gone on. Okay, so Oak Meadow is broken into trimesters, 3 trimesters. In my old book it says 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, and 3rd quarter. When your child is ready for 2nd grade, they're what? 7 or 8? 7 or 8, I think. And they've done all the fairy tales from 1st grade. They've started the word families, the phonetics from 1st grade. They get their first real Oak Meadow issued readers, which if you've heard the story of my readers, they're a little beat up. But these 2 babies, these are the 2 ones that they expect your kids to be able to read with you. They really push not causing reading to be an anxiety-inducing thing. So if your child stresses out with reading, you take it slow, you take turns, you break it down into 15 minutes a day, every day, or maybe it might even say like 3 days a week, but we did every day. This is what their readers look like. So that way you don't get confused between the 2 other small books like this that are parent-led. Although if your child is just a bomb reader, they might want to read those too, but they're supposed to be read-alouds. This is what the readers look like. If your child is not in these readers, if they're not in this level of reading yet, you go back to 1st grade readers if you didn't get to those, which you probably didn't if they weren't ready for these, which are Mouse Tales, Little Bear, and Frog and Toad. If your child's above these, obviously you could probably read these and then go to the library and get, the next level up, or this same level, maturity-wise. 3rd grade, I did an unboxing for that, and we looked at the readers for that, and I've also done a readers comparison for 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade. I'll link it up here or something like that, where you see the steps of the individual readers, how Oak Meadow expects your child to be gaining their knowledge or gaining their skill in reading. And in 3rd grade, they've got Charlotte's Web, Little House in the Big Woods, Pippi Longstocking, which is quite a bit up from this. So, old version Oak Meadow, a little more gentle, a little more open-ended, no checklists, no evaluations, but pretty much the same stuff, right? The same meat. Everything is still based in the seasons, the rhythm. You still have your circle times in the morning. You're still trying to involve your child in the daily activities of making food and taking care of the house and going outside, right? But like how 1st grade was nature, and fairy tales, 2nd grade is animals. So everything throughout the entire year is about animals. You are going to need quite a bit more main lesson books than you did than you used in first grade. So I think in the very end, they want you to have, 2 science lesson books, a bunch for language arts, because Oak Meadow really pushes the fact that you learn to read by writing, by copy work. So you're writing 3 or 4 times a week. 3, I think, at the beginning, where you're copying what you write down. The parent writes down the sentences from the child's recollection, right? The comprehension from the story read the night before, or whatever they're talking about. They tell you what to write down. You write it down, and then they copy it into their main lesson book and draw a picture. If you're not new to Oak Meadow, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a whole philosophy that I can't get into just explaining in 2nd grade. But main lesson books are still where all of your children's work goes if you're not supplementing it anywhere. So you've got your math, your social studies, your science, and your language arts. And a majority of your main lesson book will be with your language arts, because you will be doing tons of reading and tons of writing, because this is a very reading and writing intensive year, 2nd grade. So if you have a child like me that has an ADD processing mind, it will be nice and gentle for them. Or anything else where they have maybe more anxiety, or they're extremely bright in one way and I tend to focus that way more. But really, it's good for every kid, right? Social studies is the same as first grade to an extent that you're trying to show them where they live and introduce them to their community, because everything is about what affects them still. It's not so much way out there, far away. Although with the internet and with YouTube and with everything else, your child is way more mature about these things than probably we were, or our parents were especially. They know about other countries. They know about other presidents and diplomats, and they know about political issues. And so that's really where you have to decide what your family is going to talk about. But they really focus on getting to know your firemen, pointing out the courthouse. If you're in America, anyway. I don't know if you're in another country. Whatever types of buildings would be important that keep your community running. That's kind of what they really want you to focus on. And then science is all animal-based. So part of the year you will actually make animal homes. Like you use chewed up bubble gum and you make like a wasp's nest. I'll show you in a little bit, but it's pretty cool. And then art, of course, is usually up to you. You get the crafts book, you get the clay fun book. You decide to do all of your wet painting and your watercolors and your acrylic painting and your coloring. And since Oak Meadow is a very heavy crafting type curriculum, you're pretty much drawing and painting and sculpting and making every day. Recorder, you're still going on recorder. If you're not, if you're doing another instrument, you're doing that on your own anyway. So the big craft for 2nd grade, I believe, is crochet, because 1st grade was finger knitting or knitting. Kindergarten was finger knitting. We did for kindergarten no knitting whatsoever, because she was not interested. For 1st grade, we did loom knitting with like the circle loom, and you make hats and scarves. Really, you can make anything with a circle loom. And we took advantage of YouTube for a lot of that. And then this year, we started doing some crocheting, but we really gravitated towards weaving. And we got a couple different little wooden looms that were for children. And they did that, and they picked it up like nothing. Now, my kindergartner, she has gotten into crocheting this year. She really wants to crochet. So it's really about being child-led, and I believe it says it in the processing manual that especially in things like music and crafts and handicrafts, handwork, you do it around your kids, and then they want to get involved. So it's an interest-based thing that they just see consistently, and then they learn it. Healthy living from the start, right? You're doing that again for grade 2. Some of my favorite books, stories, were in 2nd grade. My kids loved Solomon Owl. My kids loved Dr. Dolittle, which took us longer than what they said it would. And my kids loved the animal focus. So I read everything with my second grader and my kindergartner at night. So we did all of the read aloud material at the night before. Just like you do the fairy tales the night before in first grade, we just went right along with that pattern because that worked with our rhythm the best. So we read at night, and then the next day was when you would retell it, write the sentences, draw the pictures, talk about it, right? Here are some of the crafts. This is what they call it, the God's Eye. That was one of them, and that was for a spider web. And this is in lesson 18, 19, 20. Lesson 20 was, yes, this is where you get the chewing gum and you chew all the gum. They say, you know, enlist your whole family into chewing gum. And you make a swiftlet nest. And then there's one that's a termite. And my kids got really into termites. And we were like looking up YouTube channels and videos about like cultures where they dig up these huge termite colonies underground and they find the queen and they like eat the queen because it's like a delicacy, and she's like this big fat, I mean like huge white like worm, like goober looking thing. Okay, so like the weaver doing the weavings of like a pot holder. So that was really fun, and that's the kind of stuff that I love the most, is when you're learning about a specific thing and you have a specific craft that goes with it, because I feel like it just clicks better. Yeah, here's the termite one. I think you just use like salt. You make like a really runny salt dough and you put it on a piece of wood and they kind of make all the crevices. And even my 4-year-old really got into that one. They really gravitated towards that. And then another one that they really were fascinated with was later in the year, you study a camel and for a week, and then they got to ride a camel at a trip that we went on. So it was really cool because they were recollecting the just simple things like camels can close their nostrils and things like that. They were talking about it while they were with this camel. So it was really, really cool. You're going to hate me, but we don't do Oak Meadow math, so I don't really have a lot to say about it. I think it just goes on with the 4 processes. It goes deeper into it. I'm looking at lesson 27. It's saying like the 6s. 12 is 6 times 2. 18 is 6 times 3. And you would write it in your main lesson book. Yeah, like they have you writing to 1,000. So like on lesson 27 here, which is, you know, more than halfway through, it has on one day writing the numerals 801 through 850. And one day writing the 6 times tables. And you would just write that in your main lesson book. And I feel like that's pretty much what you do throughout the whole year. We use Math UC. That's a whole other video. So we don't even touch Oak Meadow math. Social studies. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. This is also from lesson 27. Introduce your child to the important landmarks. Introduce your child to key people in your community. Involve your child in a group project. And focus upon the unique physical and cultural aspects of your community or neighborhood. So you're starting to branch out. You've got your family, your neighborhood, your city, your state, your country, or however your country is run, or your village or whatever. And so they're slowly branching them out as their worldview becomes wider. So it's like, look, this is the post office. This is the man that works at the post office. This is the fire station. This is the woman working, driving the ambulance going into the fire station. Things like that. Yes. So we've got animals for science. We've got your community for social studies. We've got reading and writing intensively for language arts. The math seems pretty consistent from first grade. Writing out your numbers up to 1,000, it looks like, and your times tables. Lots and lots of reading and writing and rhyme. A big thing was poetry, memorizing poetry, writing down poems. Like the whole half part of my book here, let's see, 20 pages or more. 20 pages or more of poems. So it was a big deal to pick up the idea of rhyme and rhythm and poetry and how that helps with learning to read and learning to write and speak. And then verses for circle time. What did I think about it personally? I've heard people say, this is like, it's an actual issue, like on the Facebook Oak Meadow groups. There's a few out there. And if you ever hear people talk about second grade, like, what did you think about second grade? Or a lot of times people will hop on the groups and they'll say, I'm new and I'm thinking about this. What do you think? You have about 50% of people say second grade was my least favorite year to teach. And then you have about 50% that say second grade was my favorite. It's so polarizing. And I think because it's in this weird space where you're teaching, you pick up the idea that you're really focusing on reading and writing, and your child's in this momentum now of learning where they want to read and they want to write. And so your kids are starting to be a little resistant. My phone just told me that I had my storage was full, so I had to delete some stuff. But I think it's just in this transitional period, and coming out of first grade where it was all about fairy tales, and it was so, like, I think people throw it around a lot, but like that magical, because it is, and there's just that first year of really diving into learning, and then you have second grade, and some people just really think like, oh, this wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, and then they go into third grade and they love it. Or there are people who love second grade because they love how animal intensive it is and how nature intensive it is, and we went outside every day and looked for these animals. So it just depends on what your child's interests are. I mean, the theme of animals is pretty basic because most children between the ages of 7, I think, 7 and 8, love animals. And my daughter loves animals. She plays like she's a vet about every day. So it really worked out. My kindergartner, who got to enjoy the stories with her, loved it. So the themes were great. Now, there was a time where we stopped using the lessons. I think midway through the 20s. So right before we started making all the different nests. So whatever lesson that was, 25, I think, or 24, 23. Right before that, we actually took a break from the formal lessons. I would look at what the language arts was kind of saying, and then I put it away, and we really focused on reading. And that was simply because my daughter was reading Bob books the summer before second grade. And I am very proud of her because she's worked very hard, and now she's reading Animal Friends without, like, how she should be reading, that I get them, I guess. Still asking for certain words, sounding out them, but it doesn't cause her anxiety anymore. Where in the beginning of second grade, this caused her anxiety just to look at just a blank page full of writing. My dog is trying to get in my closet right now. So we took the lessons and we put them away for a little bit, and we really focused on reading and then writing too. And I know writing goes into the reading, so we did that, but I didn't really touch anything else because I didn't want to overwhelm her. So yeah, I mean, if your child really loves to write, really loves to read, loves all of the work that you put into MLBs, I can't see why they wouldn't like this year, especially if you're surrounded by areas where there are zoos and farms, woodlands. If you have your own woods, you can really incorporate a lot of really cool stuff. The crafts are mostly all animal related. In my book, which is an older version, there is a lot of openness. And if you've used the older versions, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do. You really have to use your creative thinking and say, like, well, how am I going to do this over 5 days, or how am I going to spread this out over that? And I think there were times, especially when the week seemed really, really sparse, maybe, when the information was just kind of review, when they didn't really have a lot of new stuff to give me. They didn't give me a craft or a specific story. They just kind of said, keep doing what you're doing. That was when we really chose to focus on reading, and that was when I kind of jumped off. But then we came back at around week, I want to say 29, and we finished strong. We finished the rest of the lessons. We were refreshed. We were reading out of the correct readers by then, and it was just really exciting. So if you have to step back and focus on something, you can come back to it so easily. And then I even went back and looked at the lessons that we skipped. And if I saw a craft that went with an animal or something that I thought would be cool, I just did it. I mean, because really, Oak Meadow is only supposed to be, I think, 2 to 3 hours a day at this level. So you have all day to do crafts and field trips and projects outside. So you should not be feeling so much pressure. If you're feeling so much pressure due to the curriculum, just drop something. I don't know. That's my advice. But maybe you would say, no, we have to do all of it. And if that's what you want to do, then do it. But all in all, second grade was great. I already can kind of think of what we're going to do differently when my daughter does it 2 years from now, my kindergartner right now, in how we're going to switch it up. But I am now fully looking forward to Oak Meadow first grade and Oak Meadow third grade in the fall. If you have any other questions about this curriculum or anything you'd like to add that you thought about second grade or anything different from the newer version, please let me know. Or if there's anything specific from the lesson book that you want to see. I feel like I've done a video over the readers and over the read-alouds and everything, so there's really not much more I can share on second grade. But I am looking forward to doing more videos on first grade and really exploring third grade. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.